Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zach France, and I am the co-organizer of the Salt Lake City B2B Sales Meetup, along with Jonathan Jensen. To get started with a little bit of background, Jonathan and I actually started the Salt Lake City B2B Sales Meetup because we found there's a serious lack of continuing education and networking for professional sales reps. You know, for every other profession, there is a college degree, and there's a host of other groups and events to hone those skills. But sales reps get really put into a box of being the big dumb idiots, which couldn't be further from the truth and is really not in line with the reality of the situation. But because of this fact, we really wanted to change that. And we thought that creating a group, which has now gone globally, we actually have someone on the call today that's from Spain. Because of this, we wanted to bring sales reps together with other like-minded sales reps, and invite guest speakers so we could all really get better, hone our craft, and network. So with all that said, we're really excited to have an amazing speaker today that has a long history of sales success in both bull and bear markets, which is exactly why we wanted to have him speak today about weathering a storm. Dan Watkins serves as the chairman of the board overseeing database total business and strategy. Separately, Dan is president of Forethought. Dan's resume includes various roles. He's been in sales operations, senior director of software sales. He's been a general manager, managing director, and global VP of sales. He helped lead the experience management giant Qualtrics, going from a basement to SAP's $8 billion acquisition in 2019. And he also advises many startups throughout Silicon Valley and Silicon Slopes. Dan is a proud alumnus of Brigham Young University. Other titles Dan enjoys is husband and father. We had a slight technical glitch, so the recording of the webinar starts about 1 minute in, right where Dan starts talking about how you evaluate and find a company that is worth working for. So this is the good stuff right here. With that, I'll turn it over to Dan.
Talking to once you've picked the right company to be part of, that now it's time to go in and take action. And what is the action that's within your control to go make a meaningful impact, be an important part of that. So first one is there an obvious return on investment for your product? If what you're selling doesn't create value that matters and that has a return on either top line revenue, and I'll talk about the three different versions of ROI. So not just money, although 2/3 of them are money. Do you create additional top line revenue for the company? If yes or no, if yes, you're creating a return on investment. Do you have an obvious way of showing that to customers? If yes, you know it's true, but maybe marketing hasn't done a great job at being able to go and help you articulate that, I'd challenge them to go do that. If your company needs help with consultants that can go and help you do that, I've got a lot of great connections in the industry that's full-time jobs or value engineering and helping companies articulate that. But number one is, do you help go create top-line revenue? Or number two, do you create an obvious savings on the bottom line? So are you able to go and create operational efficiencies that create more revenue on the back end that either goes back to investors, goes back to the market, or whatever it is? Now, there's a third point of return on investment that's a little bit harder to prove, but it still is okay, which would be, do you create an emotional gain for your stakeholders? Your stakeholder willing to go and push this because it makes their lives so much better. And that's where, and a lot of these are in commodities. And so, for example, if you're in the travel and hospitality industry, I'm not saying go leave because we're in a recession and right now you can't go travel. In fact, the first thing, as soon as Las Vegas opened, what did I do? I went and spent money on travel because I need the emotional gain of being away from an office, being away from working out of my own house every day. And so anyway, the three gains that to have in our return on investment are, do you create an obvious, you can document this, you can prove it, top line revenue gain for the company? Second, do you create an obvious, you can document it, you can prove it, bottom line savings? Or third, is there such an obvious emotional gain that your champions will go straight to the CFO and fight for it because they'd be willing to leave the company if this isn't obvious, if this isn't there for them? If the answer is no to all three of those, the best action I can give you is you should be looking in the field. You need to go and look elsewhere. At Qualtrics, not all of our products met those immediately. There was one product, though, that was really, really obvious. Our market research products, we could go and help companies in-house market research, and the cost differential was 10x. So it was really easy to go to a company like Citrix and say, look, it's going to cost you about 400 grand in-house this market research. And you were spending, in their case, $4 million on it. And so the champion's like, okay, this is great. I can go prove bottom line savings. Other companies, like I'll talk about Database, company that I'm the chairman of. You go in and you go and show the company exactly how to go and increase top line revenue, what skills if you go focus on, and this is how much money, and we can prove it in 90 days. Those are two examples to where it's really obvious, and I go do that. Okay. Similarly, I'm not recommending if you're in the travel and hospitality industry, abandon ship. People are going to vacation, and that emotional gain that's there. So anyway, that is point number A. Point number B, and this is where you got to really go challenge yourself. Are you necessary? I originally put in all situations, but I realized a pandemic like this that happens and affects all countries in the world. I don't know. I think it was like 1919 that a global pandemic of this nature happened, but it was way worse. You had 100 million people die. And so excluding unbelievably freakish situations, are you necessary as a software or as a product? And if the answer is no, it's a really nice to have, it's flashy, it's cool, you're most likely going to get beat out by the competitors that are less money. And so just because your product's flashy or cool, you got to go really think about, are you necessary? And the question you should be asking yourself is, as companies are talking to you, current customers, are they asking for a substantial discount, or they're going to switch to the competitors that do? If you're hearing that, then you're most likely a premium solution that they don't see as necessary. And I'll give you an example of right now at Forethought, I'm looking at buying software. I'm actually not even going to say what space it is because I don't want to offend anybody, but we're looking at a space. It's part of the recruiting journey. I'll just say that. And there's a provider that I'm used to using for the last decade, but they cost 4 times as much as their competitors. During my time at Qualtrics, it always made sense to use them. I loved the product. I was really happy with it. But now I'm looking at it and saying, do I really need to spend 4 times the amount? And the answer is an easy no. I can deal with a 20% discount in features, and I'll just go use one of these others that are in this space. And so you should be challenging yourself. Are you necessary in most situations? If the answer is yes, once again, there's an ROI and you're necessary. So far, you're 2 for 2. If the answer is no to both of these, once again, like you should be like right after this being looking at, okay, what companies are in the markets that you want to go work in? That the answer is yes to both of these. Okay. Last but not least, and this is a tricky one. And as I was going to transition out of Qualtrics, I needed to go find a company where the very top executives saw sales as meaningful. There's a book, How Blank Works, I won't fill in the middle line, that goes and says that as an executive team, these are who you should have in the room: product, engineering, finance, and on occasion include sales. That's not a company where if you want your career to be in sales, that you should say, that's where I should go and be. Because what's going to happen is they see sales individuals as commodities. They see sales individuals as replaceable, as individuals that you can just go, you'll get one here, you'll get one there. Our product's so good that it's just going to sell off the shelf. The reason why those companies are scary, not because you're not actually, you might meet point A and point B, it's because your own job security isn't guaranteed. If you're not the very, very top 10% of sales reps in that company and they decide to go do a layoff, it makes sense for them to do a layoff, even if that layoff is only 3 months. Because as a salesperson, you're a commodity. And as I went out there and as I looked at different companies and executive teams that I wanted to go and join, it mattered to me that a lot of these engineering-minded leaders, I was only going to work with ones that saw that sales is a challenging job, that you deal with the most emotionally taxing response possible, rejection. We deal with rejection through every stage of the sales funnel, and that's what creates a special sales rep. Can they deal with the rejection to go and find those monster deals? Or if you're in transactional sales, the quantity of sales. And executives that don't recognize that treat sales like commodity. So anyway, is there an ROI that's obvious for your company? Are you necessary in most situations? And does your executive team value you and value sales? If the answer is no to any of those, my recommendation is you polish up your resume and get looking. If the answer is yes to all three of those, now we go into step two. Okay, so step two is, what can you go and do when there's not as many people that are talking? Because right now with COVID, there's a lot of industries where all of those other points were true, but they're not buying, and that's okay. You shouldn't be going and leaving right away. You need to go and invest in your future. My recommendation is you're doing this at all times of your career, not just in times that maybe are slower than usual. So do this during a bear market, do this during a bull market, do this at all times. But in a market where lots of people aren't buying and you're hearing the answer and they're being honest with you, look, we're going to buy. I just need 3 months. I was talking to a CFO the other day. He's like, Dan, we're going to buy this software. You have my word. I've just made a carte blanche decision. We're buying no software for the next 3 months. I would rather not do a layoff and delay purchasing of a required software. And so that's the decision we're made. So anyway, now it's time to let's go invest in your future, and you need to get really good at your job. Only the very best salespeople are recession proof. Average sales reps are not. Okay, so there are three dimensions to sales that I talk about. I've talked about this in previous podcasts that I've done. I talk about this probably every single week with sales organizations that I run. But there are 3 dimensions of sales that you have to pay attention to, and you have to be amazing at all of them. And it's on you. Don't rely on your manager. Don't rely on your company. Don't rely on other people. Choose to do things like this. Attend great seminars that people like Zach and Jonathan put together to go and invest in getting better. And first off, the first dimension of sales is inputs. Whatever it takes to go and sell, whether that's opportunities, whether that's building relationship with new partners, whether that is marketing, whatever the inputs are that are required, the hard work part of the job, go be in. I would recommend, and myself when I started at Qualtrics, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute, I obsessed on being number one in that. I was going to be, even though I'd had 5 years selling experience at the time, more management experience, I was going to be number one in cold calls. The quantity, by 10 a.m. every day, I was going to do more than the rest were going to do the rest of the day. By the end of each week, I was going to generate more opportunities, even though my win rate was higher. By the end of each quarter, I was going to close more. Those were my obsessions. And I had a really supportive wife. She would call me up and say, hey, Dan, did you make more calls than anybody else today? And that was my first couple months. Hey, Dan, did you set more opportunities than anybody else? Got a little annoying was, hey, Dan, did you close more? Because it was every day she was asking me this. Did you close more deals there? It's like, Kim, it's not the same as like when I first started. I don't get a deal closed every day. But anyway, like you go think about that and say, if you're not going to be number one, that's okay. Because you might be part of a massive company where being number one, maybe territories aren't set up in a way that's going to set you up there, but you can be top 25% no matter what territory you have. If you don't believe that, go read the book Question-Based Selling. It's the fantastic story on a sales executive goes in. It's during a rough time in the economy, and he's told, you're going to get the worst territory we have. It was the lowest performing territory in the company last year. It was Kansas City. And he's like, okay, but I want to work for this company. I'm going to go do that. By the time he starts, they'd had a mishap on hiring. They'd hired another person before, and it started before him. That individual got to pick which half of Kansas City he wanted. So he got the worst half of already the worst performing territory in the company and turned it to a territory that beat New York City, beat San Francisco, and he goes through the everything he did to go do that. Number one territory, took the worst half of the worst one, made it the best. So anyway, number one is inputs. You got to go control your destiny by outworking everybody else out. And that doesn't mean you can't work smarter as well and get better at your sales, because that's dimension number 2. Every single week, and the book that I recommend you read on this is Peak Performance by Anders Ericsson. It's the entire science of deliberate practice. And so I'm going to talk real briefly about deliberate practice and how to think about it. There's 3 components that will make you the best in the world at anything. He actually fundamentally disagrees with Malcolm Gladwell's science around 10,000 hours to become the best, because he says it's possible to do it in less. But there are some sciences and industries where it won't even matter how many tens of thousands of hours you put into, you'll never become the best. You have to apply his science. And his science is really 3 things. So number 1 is you have to go pick a smart goal. What is something that motivates you? you're fascinated by, and then go after that. So if you want to be best sales rep in the company, that would be an example of that goal. You want to go be one of the best sales reps in the world, that would be an example of that goal. And he goes through the book and he talks about people that in their 20s decide they're going to start golfing and get in on the PGA Tour. And this scientist is their coach. Okay. And so anyway, so first you go pick a goal. What is your goal? Second is you hold yourself accountable. The book I think recommends weekly. I'm suggesting daily. What did you do today that was better than yesterday? And you instill this growth mindset that Carol Dweck talks about, that you're going to go and be better today than yesterday, that it is within your control to become smarter, your control to become more skilled, your control as to what your destiny is. So you hold yourself accountable to becoming better, that you're not just going to and he uses an example of a story. He was talking to Angela Duckworth, good friend of mine, and she actually told me about the story as well. It's like, really, she goes to him and she's like, look, I've been running the same now at the same speed per mile for years. And he asked her a really simple question. The last time you ran, what was your goal? And it was to complete the 3 miles. It wasn't to increase her speed by 5 seconds per mile. And when you get that clear on what your goal is as to how you're getting better, you'll hold yourself accountable. So anyway, so that's number one, pick the goal. Number two, hold yourself accountable to that goal and getting better. I recommend every day. I think the book recommends every week. And then the third category is have somebody as your mentor that's already done it. So if you're an SDR, go pick the top SDR that's doing more of whatever it is you want to go get better at, that's doing better at that, and ask them the tips and tricks. You might why go and kick against the pricks to go and do something that somebody else has already done? Go cheat. They'll tell you all the answers. Then go do it and you'll get to that next level. Then soon you'll find you're as good or better than them. Then you go and say, okay, have you achieved the bar that you wanted? If so, okay, now go pick the next skill you're going to go get great at and pick your mentor there. If not, go pick a new mentor in that thing. And it might need to be an industry leader, because if you're already the best in your company, you might need an industry leader that has a documented way or best practices and how to go get really, really good at that thing. Okay, so dimension number one, hard work. Dimension number two, I'm recommending you're always improving your skills. The methodology I recommend is deliberate practice by Anders Ericsson in the book Peak. Then third is quota attainment. What will happen is if you're that rep that every year gets that one deal and you go and close it, but you and me and your boss, everybody kind of knows you got that one deal because you were early in the company. What will end up happening is at some point the CRO or VP of sales is going to come in and they're going to recognize that. And all of a sudden they're going to shift your territory up. And if you've been relying on that one customer upgrade every year, that one patch that you've had forever, quota attainment's not going to end up mattering. You're going to be thrown back out there to go work a new territory. You work at Salesforce, you're used to every single year your territory gets mixed up, because Salesforce has nailed it. They've come up with so many styles to go and figure out how to consistently only have the very best working their accounts. And so they mix the territory up every single year. I think the rule is, when I was talking to my friends that are there, you got to keep 5 accounts each year. Everything else is going to be rotated and moved around. So anyway, that you got as a leader and as a sales rep, you pay attention to your quota attainment, you pay attention to your skills, you pay attention to your inputs. Okay. Number 2, do not let anyone other than yourself control your day. Every single day, you should decide if you're a badass. You should decide your agenda. And don't let distractions happen. In a lot of the tech space, there's ping pong tables everywhere. There's people wanting to go get a coffee. There's people wanting to go have a beer. There's people wanting to go, whatever it is. There's distractions everywhere in the sales environment. If you go and decide what you're going to go and do. Now, by 10 a.m., if I'm an SDR or I'm still actively building a pipeline, I will be number 1 in the business for what anybody else did yesterday on calls, or whatever your pipeline generation metric is. And that every single week you create your calendar in a way and you block time off and you do not let anybody else interrupt it, where you're generating opportunities and you're converting them. You've practiced your discovery. You show up to that meeting shockingly prepared with the right questions to go and increase your conversion rate as you're doing discoveries to opportunities. You're not talking about features and functions. You're not asking questions that lead to a sell. You're leading to questions that understand the impact that executive needs that you're working with. And you've studied their business and you're prepared. So you're number one in opportunities. And then every quarter, you're number one in closed won deals. Plan your agenda, plan your calendar out in a way that guarantees that. And don't let people interrupt you. When your manager says, hey, can you come to this meeting? Your answer should be, well, let me tell you what I'm doing. Is that meeting more valuable? If so, tell me why. And that type of confidence will guarantee you're consistently a top 25% rep, irrespective of the economy and what's going on. Okay, here's the funnel that I recommend that everybody pay attention to. So on the left, inside the funnel, you have efforts and things that you can control. On the right, you have the ratios that pay attention to if you're any good at them. I do not recommend that you only pay attention to inputs. You got to pay attention to inputs and the skills. So this is one funnel. Are you cold calling? The reason why I don't think cold calling is dead is that still 12% of calls are leading to answers. That's higher than any email marketing. And so you go and you do that. You're getting the people that'll still answer the phone. I highly recommend you include a social touch, you include an email, and that your voicemail has a compelling message to it. But anyway, so first you look at calls. You should be assessing your answer rate. If you're not getting 12% of individuals responding to you, you don't have the right cadence. There's lots of great companies like Xant out there, HubSpot, variety of others that go in and talk about how to go do this. It's not even, there's not an art to it. This is just science. And if you're not getting 12% of people to answer in the phone, then like go fix it with easy solutions. Okay. Next is answers. So people that you actually have live conversations with that had no idea who you were. They didn't know if you were calling from Oracle, you're calling from Blackbaud, you're calling from Qualtrics, you're calling from a startup that nobody's ever heard of. When they answer the phone, do you convert them? Do you overcome those objections? The best in the world don't give up until they've tried to navigate at least 3 objections. It's on the 3rd that it can start be acceptable to be rejected and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to move on to the next one. What's crazy is that 90% of sales reps give up after 1. And I call giving up where you say something like, are you sure? Or could I send you an email? Those are giving up. It's when you take practices, and there's really good stuff by Rain Group. If you want to go learn on how to overcome the 2 most common, which are I'm not interested or I'm already working with a competitor. They've got a really good methodology to go follow through on that. Because in the end, most people are just busy. Rain Group's got really good stuff on there. HubSpot also produces a ton of content in this space, and so does Xant. But anyway, lots of stuff on set rate. Okay, show rate. Do they actually show up to your meetings? That's all around. Did you actually get an agenda? By the way, on set rate, low bar for you should be 25%. If you don't overcome the objections for at least 25% of people, you got to go study this. This is an easy metric to go get in. World class is when you're getting to about 60%. Top 25% of people are at about 40%. So if you can go and say you've arrived, once you get to at least 40% of individuals that you're cold calling into, you're able to overcome objections with and get them to agree to meet with you. On show rate, percent of those that agree to meet with you that actually show up, you should be at 80 to 95%. There's going to be people that leave their jobs. There's going to be people that have a life-changing event that go and happen that you're never going to get in and that you're never going to reschedule. Their jobs change, and that just happens. And so about 5% on the low end, you're just never going to be able to re-engage, but 80% of them should show up. Then you get to the next one is what percent of those opportunities convert? So of those that show up, how strong are you at asking executive level questions where you're getting to impact, not you're getting to pain? Pain is not discovery. That's something that any sales rep and any company can go and do if they've been in the business for even 3 years. It's when you get into what is the impact on your business? And that's that top line revenue again, that ROI stuff we were talking about. What's the top line revenue we're going to go and get you? What's the bottom line savings we're going to go and get you that matters to you? Or what is that personal outcome that you've got to get? Like maybe you're about to retire because the job's so miserable because you're having to work 60 hours a week and you need something that offloads a ton of time for you or enables your team. You can get to that level of personal gain. It can also work. And so your opportunity conversion rate, if you're in a startup and it's a new industry, the benchmark is 50%. If you're in an industry where it's well established, it's very clear this is now mainstream technology, not your company necessarily, but this industry is mainstream, you should be at 85% op conversion rate. And the reason for that is because your product is relevant. Did you just do a good enough job at asking questions and creating a compelling thought track for them to go get there? Now, you might be called, the only reason that this might be lower than that, you're kind of wondering, is you might be calling the wrong people. You might be having meetings with the wrong people. But if you're deliberate about who you're calling the right buyer personas, and it's an established, this is what should be happening, 80% of people that you have discovery with should convert to pipe. And if you're in a company where that's not possible and it is established, once again, you should consider looking at other companies. 50% if it's a new-ish industry, new-ish type of product or mindset. Okay, next is win rate. You should be winning on the low end 25% of deals. World-class, and there's a ton of research on this from Huthwaite and Franklin Covey, is at 65%. And it's those individuals, and this is the top 3% of sales reps. They win at 65%, whether they're selling corn or whether they're selling ERP. And it's because they get to impact. And that's the easiest way. Once again, in that discovery, did you get to impact? Then did you tie in every meeting all the way to impact? And so win rate, like bare bones, you can say like, okay, I'm good enough, is 25% win rate. You want to get to that 60, 65% means you're now world-class. And you can say like, I can move on to the next thing once you're at 40%. Okay. Last but not least is average deal size. This is like your average deal size is going to vary so greatly per industry and you're not going to talk about it, but that's another skill you should go and look at. Are you in the top 25% of your company? Okay. So those are the metrics and skills that you should be paying attention to go and achieve your skills. That then leads to the output. So quick summary real quick, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Q&A, is pick your company wisely. Is there an obvious return on investment versus, and then are you necessary? Those two combined, if the answer is no to either of those, or are you even valued? Is sales valued at the very top? Now is a beautiful time to go start looking. Because in recessions, great salespeople are going to get picked up. People that want to go and have an impact, and you go tell them this is what you're going to go do. Say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to work harder than anyone else. I will own my own destiny by being a top 25% each thing that matters in this, and I will obsess on hitting my quote every single quarter. You go tell that, you're going to get hired. There's a lot of companies that do have those things that are true. They're looking for people like you. So anyway, that's it for me. I'm going to turn it over to questions. Any question that you want to ask is free game. So either send those to Ryan Hardy, who's on there, or to Zach, and they'll send them over to me. So I'm going to have my chat open for you two. You guys send them to me, prioritize them as they're coming in, and we'll go there. Okay, so the first one, let's see, Ryan, Ryan, where do I start? Okay, we are. How do you know if a company provides actual value before signing on? What I would do is I would go and ask them, show me your best pitch deck on your value prop. Show me the return on investment you had that was most compelling in your last couple deals. If they can't go show you that, they haven't figured it out yet. So they might still have it, but you're safer going to one who can go show you a return on investment proposal. And if in their proposal, there's no value that they're showing other than nice, flashy things, you can just end the interview process. So that'd be my recommendation, is go ask them to show you a proposal that they recently sent where the ROI is obvious and it's outlined in that. That's an easy way of saying it. All right, number 2 is regarding still being effective in a recession or pandemic. How do you keep in touch with your leads, asking what they need without seeming tone deaf? I think you go in and ask the question. You can say, look, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, I'm really excited to work with you. I know during this virus, there's a lot of stuff going on. Working together, whether it's now, whether it's in the future, all that matters to me is I can go and help your business out. I want to understand during this period of time, what are your top 3 priorities? What are the things you're working on right now? And what are the things that over the next 12 months you care deeply that happen? And if those answers aren't you, be their friend and introduce them to people that know those answers. And I promise you can withstand the financial blow of not winning deals now, because they'll come back when it is yours. You keep in touch with them. If you go in and saying, hey, when is the next time you need to do a online meeting because we need to get this sold to you? Like, that is something that's pretty top of mind for a lot of people. But if you go in that approach, you're not going to win. They're not going to see you as a partner. And so during this time, it's even more important to not be tone deaf, not just not seem tone deaf, but to not be. And if you've got to go take out a personal loan to be able to pay for your living for this next little while you're a true partner to them, I promise it pays off majorly. There's a customer, Brian's probably going to get upset with me. There's a lot of questions coming, but I want to tell this story. There's a customer who owns, they are the largest, and I didn't even know it still existed, largest cataloged goods company in the world. And they didn't even have any market research. And they're like, Dan, I promise you, I'll one day be a high six-figure customer for you, but I need you to sell me this $50,000 license for $1,500. It is really rough in 2008 with all the layoffs going on. I'm the only one. I'm a senior executive, but hired as an individual contributor. I need a chance to go prove it. I was like, you know what? I got your back. Let's do this. Every 3 months, I'm going to give you a call because I need, like, as you're proving value, I need you to hook me up and let's get this up there. They're either, as I left, I think they were around $800,000 a year with Qualtrics. And so, like, I recommend that's what you're doing. Go and take the sacrifices now and prove you care about them, and they'll love it. All right. All right. Next one. Let's see. What would you do during your first week if you were the first sales rep for a young SaaS startup? So you're the very first sales rep. It's your first week. What would you do? First thing that I would be doing is I would be building a list of who it is that I'm going to reach out to. And if you're new in your career, then I would highly recommend that you go and you get advice from others around messaging. There's a lot of cadences that work, like I said, that include a call, an email, a social touch, a voicemail as you're building that up. But I'd be very, very selective on who the first few people are that you're going to go reach out to, and use your messaging to kind of shock the system. And what you'll go find is people really, really compelled by that message. If you're the very first one, work closely with the founders. Say, who are the 30 people that you know should be using our product? And then ask them, would you mind if I log into your LinkedIn and send them an email using this messaging? That's what I do if I were you in your first week. I also would get really, really good at running the meetings entirely on your own. They're not going to have a lot of resources, most likely, to help you. So you got to go figure out how to fake it till you make it. I'll never forget day one at Qualtrics. Like, hey, Dan, call anybody you want. I was the first I was hired to go start corporate sales. Call anybody you like. And here's a log into our product. And my demos were our website. I had nothing else. And I had to go figure that out. And I remember my first deal was $50. I'll never forget, Dent Supply. And that was in 2007. And like, you had nothing to do. There was no pricing standardized. And so work with the founders, see what help they're willing to go provide you, what introductions they'll go make, and then just get out there. That'd be my advice. Okay, next question. Have you found any software tools that are best in skills training? Now, like, I'm obviously biased here with database. But that methodology is what we used at Qualtrics. They're switching over to that product right now. We're in the process of getting them switched over because it's really hard to custom build something that does everything I talked about. For years, the engineering team's been building it. So I think database is the best there is out there at being able to tell you exactly what skill you need to go and get better at. It'll assess you as an individual. It'll then recommend exactly how to go and get better and what you should go do to develop yourself. That's my recommendation. If you want any, since I know the founders well, big investor there for me, I would be more than happy to introduce you and make sure you get taken care of. Okay, next is, thanks for the win rate metrics and perspective. What advice do you have to increase deal velocity? Okay, this is my favorite metric of all metrics because it applies to so many of the skills. It's scheduled next event percentage. Of deals you have in your pipeline, what % of them do you have a calendared, and it's not on your calendar, it's on your calendar and their calendar, next meeting with? I'll tell you a crazy metric that as I've studied this is why I think it's like the super metric to go and fix so many of your sales skills. If your SNE or scheduled next event ratio is at 60% or above, compared to those at 60%, I'm not even going to say or below, those at 60%. So literally the difference between 60 and 80, your average deal size will double. Your win rate will increase by a hard 10 percentage points, meaning if you're at 25, it'll go to 35. And your deal velocity will cut in half. Or your deal velocity will double, meaning your deal length will cut in half. It is the super metric of all super metrics. And the reason why is because it shows intent. Your intent to go move the needle with the customer's intent to move the needle with you. If they don't want to be on the calendar with you, they keep delaying, saying this is going on or that's going on, you don't have a real deal. And so if you hold yourself accountable to the right pipeline amount and your SNEs at 80% or above, just like all of those ratios, your win rate, your average deal size, everything goes up. All right. What? Okay, so next one is, aside from being a top performing rep, what is your advice for anyone wanting to go into sales leadership? Yeah, so I think you should really, the first question you should ask yourself, and this one was a struggle for me. I loved working the deal. I also love leading people. You got to go figure out what's your motivation for leading. If your motivation is power, there's no better job in the world than enterprise sales. The amount of human beings you're influencing with the largest companies in the world and the largest deals in the world, that's where you should go do it. Don't assume leadership actually gives you power. Leadership only gives you power if you're actually a good leader, because your people will completely ignore you if you're not. And so if you're really good at sales and you just want power and that's what you're looking for, go into enterprise sales. Your ability to influence an entire sales cycle, call the shots on what resources are helping you, all of that, that's my recommendation. If your passion, and this is what I ended up finding about myself as I kind of went on this journey and asking, and it's not helping, like I'm not an altruist, I don't even believe in altruism, but it's in having an impact on everybody around you. And you're obsessed with developing those around you. You see the good that others don't even see in themselves as to how you can go build that up. And you want to make a lot of money in that. Sales leadership is the best where it's at. It's better than VP of marketing. It's better than CFO. It's better than COO, because your ability to make a lot of money in sales and impact so many people and the deals, that's the question you got to go ask yourself. What is your real motive? What is your underlying incentive for wanting to go into leadership? Once you know the answer, go with it. Okay, next question is, how do I overcome objections to booking a meeting on a cold call with a pandemic going on? Many prospects will say, we can't look at this right now with everything that's going on. It's the exact, what's crazy is like people are, I talk to my teams, I talk to friends, they're all saying the same thing. What is the difference between that and I don't have any time right now? And the question you should be asking yourself, are you really getting that objection more than you used to get the objection, I'm busy, I don't have time for this? And I've found with the sales teams I'm responsible for, the answer is no, because it's the number one objective we used to get is I'm not interested, I don't have time. That's the same thing they're saying. They're just using a really, really helpful excuse. So the question you have to go ask yourself is that front one. Does your product actually add value? Because if your product is necessary during all times, other than in like travel and hospitality and some of the industries that are completely going belly up right now, they don't even know if they're going to be solvent in 3 months. If you're only selling to them, okay, it's different. If you're selling to a wide swath of people and you add true value, what you should ask them is this question. This is through that training of Rain Group. I got a question for you. I need to know if this is something that you're not actually the one that's responsible for solving this problem, or if that problem is already solved. And if they're responsible for owning it, and you can say, because if it's either of those, then you're probably just busy right now. Let's set up time in 2 weeks, because you can see the announcements that are coming out from the governments, the economy's opening more and more, and I want to help you solve this problem that you're responsible for. If you get really comfortable with that, and any of you want the documentation on that, I actually built a whole deck off of that way of overcoming objections. More than happy to share that with the group. and get it out there. It's a really, really, you can use your own personality so it's not as aggressive. You don't have to use word for word that. You can use it in kind of your own vocabulary, but you get it that way. What you'll find is they're just trying to blow you off like they were trying to blow you off before. Except if you're in one of those few industries that is truly getting steamrolled by this. All right, I've got 2 more that we're going to get, and then I think we're out of time, so we're going to give everybody the time to go and get to the lunch. We're going to end 10 minutes early. So we'll do thoughts on different sales strategies, like good questioning versus challenging, or both. I'm a huge fan of both. I really like the challenger sale. The reason why it's hard to adopt is it's nearly impossible to get a whole company aligned. And the book says that unless you can get your whole company aligned around the challenger sales methodology, which includes marketing, which includes technical sales and sales engineering, it's hard to get the whole company bought into that. And a lot of companies like the value selling framework or question-based selling framework. And so you got to fit within your company. I like really, really pointed questions that get to the impact of their business. Then, which would be more question-based selling. Then you leave the meeting and you've studied exactly how to go solve that, and you come back with a challenging and thoughtful approach as to how to go do it that's different than maybe even how they were thinking. That's how I incorporate kind of both mindsets. I know Challenger's not huge on questions. I love it anyway. But I also really like their approach of it having a unique and compelling insight when you show up to the meeting as to how to go and solve it different than everybody else's. Okay. If a potential client has zero budget to do anything right now because of the pandemic, would you suggest offering to do something them for free now in the hopes that goodwill will pay off when they get off the pandemic reaction mode? If you can afford to do that and you're confident through your discovery that they're not lying to you, because there's a lot of really smart CFOs out there that are training their people. Say this, let's get it for free. So if you can go and navigate and go and dig into it and see like, oh, tell me about that. Have you guys done a complete budget freeze? Are you guys able to buy anything? And then based on their trust, they'll tell you the truth. If it's true that they don't have anything and you're not selling a hard goods product where you are going to go and suffer, then yeah, I do the whole thing for them for free. Forethought, we're offering 2 full months of our product at no cost and no obligation to renew. And the idea is because our product goes and automates a lot of their processes and customer support, most customer support organizations are underwater and they need the help. And so 2 months for free for us. Yes, it hurts on the bottom line as we're still have to pay to go and onboard those customers because it's expensive. And those things, it's worth it. We think we'll create enough goodwill that it's going to pay off in a major way once this goes down. Okay, final question. For all the leaders watching, how do you hire stellar sales reps? What can we do during our interview process to get a full team of great people? Okay, so what I want to go and do, like I've got a methodology. I recommend, because we're out of time now, that you go and study the process of structured interviews. Human beings, and this is Professor Dana has done a lot of research on this. Human beings are not wired to go and pick people for business. Sorry. They are wired to pick sexual partners and allies in time of war. That's what our genetics are wired to do. We haven't evolved over thousands of years yet to go change our genetic code to pick good business partners. It's just not what we're genetically predisposed to do. And there's nothing we can do about that. So what you do is you design an interview process that will truly assess what you need, and you force yourself to a scoring system that doesn't allow you to go and naturally insert your bias. If you go and do the Clayman Institute at Stanford, they were great partners of Qualtrics. They came in and said, look, every one of you is biased. Don't deny it. I'm biased. You're biased. We're all biased. So if you're going to go design a world-class team, I recommend the WHO methodology by Jeffrey Smart. You study their resume. Do they actually have the background that's what you need? You study their skills. Go prove them. Like if you go interview with me, you will be going through a structured process that assesses your ability to cold call, no matter how senior you are, your ability to do a meaningful and thoughtful discovery, and your ability to go and show value in a presentation. That's step 2. And then step 3 is I actually use the How Google Works book to go and like hiring smart creatives. Are you intellectually bright? So just IQ. Are you emotionally bright? EQ. Will you work your tail off to go and achieve an outcome? Motor. Do you have evidence of performance in the past? Trajectory. And are you a culture fit? And to me, that's not what you go have a beer with me or have a coffee with me or go surfing with me. It's, are you a fit for that job? And so that's where I add in 2 skills. For sales, I look at their forecasting methodology and their willingness to self-generate pipeline. That's what I mean by culture fit. Those are the only things in my last interview that even assess anything to do with sales. So I appreciate it all. Zach, Jonathan, it's an honor working with you. I'll turn the time back over to you all. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope all of you have an incredible week. If there's anything I could do for you, ping me on LinkedIn. Happy to help. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone. We had a couple of requests for the deck, and we will make that available through the MeetUp group. So if you didn't RSVP there, please go RSVP there, and we'll get it sent down to everyone. Thanks, and happy selling. See ya.